Hey, welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways, Coyote in the Highlands, but I'm not in the Highlands right now. I am in the lowlands. I am actually in the Valley of the Sun. So this is the Central Valley. It's an area that was developed originally in the 50s, 60s time frame. I think right where we are would have been late 50s. I grew up in the valley, the east, relatively speaking, east side of the valley. It's not even considered East Valley anymore with all the expansion, but I grew up in South Scottsdale, and it's informed a lot of, as I looked around the world, it's informed a lot of my thinking about how people adjust to city environments, suburb environments, mountains, trails, nature. You know, I think that the valley has done a very good job in ways that people don't really necessarily understand when they come from eastern cities. You know, I've lived in Alexandria, I've lived in Reston, Herndon, Falls Church, Philadelphia, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Lancaster, California, several cities in California, Spain, Iceland. I've lived in a lot of places. I've lived in Houston. I've lived, I was in Baltimore for a little while. I don't know if I'd consider it living there. Washington, basically Seattle, also Olympia, and, you know, just a whole bunch of places. Further up the coast, Davis, Sacramento, there's bunches of places, San Diego, Oceanside, and there's some particular things about the valley that I really enjoy. And I'm going to get into that a little bit in this video, but this is the Airbnb video. Or series of videos, because I got to keep these relatively short. We're in an Airbnb right now, which is an expense I would not normally go through, but I'm doing some specific work with one of my daughters as far as just health and freedom and stuff. There's some stuff going on. So we're here, and this is one of the areas where I feel like we'd be better off with being able to build co-ops. And it's a little complicated when you get into that, because there's size of co-op, management of co-op, and the idea that a lot of co-ops have that you have to be in a specific ideological framework to work with the co-op. So let's just pan for a moment. I'm just going to pan, okay? I'll loosen up my stuff here so that it works. And I'm just going to show you that this is a fairly large 2-lot Airbnb setup. It has a lot of things that I like and a lot of things that I don't like. Well, that I find tolerable, but not necessarily pleasant. So we're going to pan back. And this is actually, I've stayed here before. This is actually a new thing where they've added the second house and got the remodel. And that is set up as, I believe, 3 units. And then this original structure here is set up as 5 units, okay? And then we've got the backyard and the pool and all of that stuff going on. Now, fantastic things if you wanted to build a, let's not go with intentional community, because that's not really what we're going for, but you want something that's a little more co-op-y than just an apartment complex. And this is where things start to get a little funky just to begin with. Like, how do you manage that? For example, I'm an advocate of Second Amendment rights, and I do stuff, and, you know, backyard archery even is a thing for me, and there's all sorts of stuff that I do, and I like to barbecue, and I'm not a vegetarian, I am a carnivore. In fact, I don't eat vegetables, and, you know, I have dogs. I don't mind cats, but I'm allergic. You know, so there's all these different things. You know, if your goal is to have the perfect communal vegan co-op where everyone shares an ideology and has a weekly meeting or a nightly meeting at the communal meal where you yell about Donald Trump and the evil Republicans, I'm not going to fit in well. You know, I'm not a Republican, but I'm still not going to fit in well because I'm not into the whole yelling about everything thing. That's like boring and not useful. So that's a problem. I've been involved with co-ops before. I've been in communes before. I've lived in 2 communes. So these are things that come up in my head, and I've noticed that the communes are actually less ideological than the co-ops in a lot of ways. Co-ops seem to have a monetary factor that causes people to think that they have the right to tell other people what to do. That's something, you know, this is going to be a long series of videos, I can tell, because there's a lot of subtopics going on. But this is a really nice place. Now, you've got functionally 8 units, and you could raise kids here. Now, it's 2 lots, so it's not actually big, okay? There's enough parking up front. This particular block, for some reason, has no alley, which is really weird because most of the valley has alleys, and that's just really weird. So not having the alley is actually a detriment, because rear access is actually a good thing for helping and maintaining privacy in a co-op environment. But you have 2 main entrances. You have a couple of alternate entrances over there where you could go in and out if you wanted some privacy, if you're in the right unit. 8 units. Most of these units, I think that it's going to be 5 of the 8 units have some sort of private, little private fenced space, and that's for dogs actually, because this is a dog-friendly Airbnb. But you can actually maintain that as a little bit of privacy space, a meditation garden or something. These things this is how you work when you live together. This is how you live together functionally with this kind of thing. There's no rooftop deck. That would be possible in the architecture. There is a front courtyard area, and then there's a rear yard area, and you've got the pool, and you've got the other lot's yard. And then you've got the yards behind me that are actually sort of divided off, and that's dog stuff. If you had the right fencing, that makes four specifically separable outdoor space, communal spaces. For 8 units, plus you have your little private meditation gardens, it's plenty of space for people to be able to live close to each other and not be up in each other's asses, which is a problem. There's plenty of room here for gardens, and I would garden in a specific manner. I've got experience with the valley and the heat, and I understand how this all works. One thing is, for the ecologists out there and the environmentalists and the oh my god people, you're going to use the water. If you're going to garden, you're going to use the water. You can do it very well, very successfully. There's plenty of gray water access here. There's plenty of stuff you could do with the current codes. The pool is absolutely necessary to maintain out here. You've got 8 units. You definitely want to just keep the pool. It's a wonderful thing to have in summer. It's not a waste of water. It's not actually a waste of infrastructure. It's a wonderful thing. They can be maintained very well. This is going to be a traditional pool, not a pond water cycle pool, because this isn't on 2 acres. So just give that notion up and deal with what it is. Now, you could set this up as an ownership co-op pretty easily, and you can do it with the ability to sell, to get out, to be temporary, to not have your whole life and retirement shoved into the people who are your neighbors. And that's important, because that mobility and that freedom is important. But I think you could do this really well. You definitely have some space for some raspberries. There's some other stuff you could do, a couple of day palms. The chickens and the ducks and the rules in the city are a little cantankerous at times, but you can do some chickens, some ducks for egg production and meat production. That would actually work really well. There's enough space here that I could run enough ducks to have a continuous supply of eggs, probably in the range of 8 to 12 a day, and a couple of butchered ducks every week. That's not a lot for 8 families, but it's definitely a help. It's a help, okay? It definitely helps offset things and keeps you connected to what you're doing. This isn't 5 acres, so they're just not going to get all that much more. This is a in the city suburban, old style suburban lot, double lot, and I think it works out really well. It does actually work out really well. There's a lot of things you could do. You could squeeze 9 units in, because there's that container behind me, if you really needed to and the codes allowed. So, you've got a lot of stuff. The thing is that requires a little bit of a minimalist lifestyle. Half of these units are technically 1 bedroom, half are technically 2 bedroom. Now, I've lived in a lot of parts of the world where people raise families of 6 people in a 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom house, and do so relatively comfortably, boisterously, but comfortably, because they're not attached to certain types of Western social anxiety paradigms, okay? So you can do it. You could go all the way through teenage years and adulthood with some of this stuff. And our average families are not 4 kids. You know, I have 4 kids, but most people don't really have 4 kids. So that's not even a problem. I could do 4 kids in a 2-bedroom without too much difficulty, provided there was outdoor space like this, like a pool, you know, an outdoor shaded seating areas, that kind of stuff. It really does help to have the outdoor space. It also helps to be in a place where you can walk somewhere and go do something, you know, libraries, parks, whatever. So this is doable. And the main point I'm trying to make here is that this, as an Airbnb, is a hugely expensive thing, and it has money-making potential and all of that. But as a co-op, as a, and I don't want to use intentional community again, but as a kind of an in-between. I'm trying to suss out something in between. As a space where multiple people are invested, it becomes very affordable, like really cheaper than rent levels of affordable. If you have someone involved in the process who's capable of dealing with the city paperwork and all the legal battles and all this and that, and who to bribe and who to take out to lunch and everything to make it all work. Because there's nothing about this Airbnb setup that would be normally doable for average Joe homeowner. There's paperwork involved in this, okay? Definitely taking down the fences, joining the lots, there's stuff involved. And that's fine. That's how the systems all work. So you have to have someone who's capable. But I think you could do that. And the thing is, you can make a network of these. You could take this whole block. There's a couple more houses. There's a couple houses for sale over there. There's the stuff on the other side. I've walked around this area. And you could basically do the whole block and do the same thing. And in the space of both sides of one block, probably get upwards of 34 units total with small footprints, not quite tiny home small footprints, but small footprints, a little bit of communal outdoor space, some private outdoor space, a couple of pools. At that point, you'd be looking at probably 4 pools. And that's awesome, because that gives you the ability to hang out with people you want to hang out with and not hang out with people you don't want to hang out with, and so on and so forth. You don't want that. One of the problems with communes is that sometimes they have this idea of forcing everybody into one space and deal with it, and that's not good. I've done videos about consensus decision making being a form of bullying, and there's a lot of social bullying that goes on in these mandated collective environments. You don't want to go through that. But this is a model. This here is a model. This is, you know, prices in here with the remodeling and everything. This is probably $900,000 of stuff. If you were doing some of the work yourself, if you had some pre-existing land ownership or something, this would be way closer to $450,000. And I'm doing that with the bubble prices, okay? This would have been, to get these properties in the state in which they existed before remodeling over the last couple of years, probably $500,000. And, you know, eight units, that's actually doable. You know, at that point in time, you're actually looking at something that's doable as a corporate structure, as a co-op structure. And this is an expensive area. This is a relatively nice area in a relatively developed part of the valley. This is in Phoenix, not Scottsdale, but this is a pretty nice, okay area. So you could do it. We're going to talk a little bit about more of that in the next video. Stay sideways.